Seems very bright, doesn't it? There you go. There we go. Not used to this yet, but we will get there. All right. Let's get that one set up. Should only have a couple left. Let's see. How's everybody doing tonight? We're slowly getting this all set up real quick. Don't know why this one is acting kind of funky. There we go. Super Sloth, what's up? Awesome, good to see you guys. Here we go. Here we go. Someone else says no sound on Instagram. I don't know what's going on Instagram, but everybody else said they had sound. So from Raleigh, we were just down there just a little bit ago. All right, it looks like everybody should have sound. So okay. All right. And 3, 2, 1. We should be good to go. All right. Hope everybody's doing well on this Thursday night. Think we got everything rolling. Should have everything good to go. Trying to make sure we're framed up okay and taking care of it. Everything looks a little bit different. Kind of changing up where we're at. And I don't have a good place to like mess with the mouse. Like hold the mouse like right here. Let's see. All right. Let's double check in. Gosh, that camera is like so wide. Okay. Where's everybody from tonight? Get ready to rock and roll. Sacramento, California, North Carolina, all over the place. I don't know why that camera is so... TikTok is like so far away. Sorry, guys. Let me get it fixed here. I'm just gonna have to change it up. I tried to do this earlier, but the problem was it was like during the day and everything looked a little bit different. So we're gonna mess it for 1 second here, and then we'll be good to go. Okay. Yeah, that's close enough. All right, then we'll just move over. New York City, Boston, Colorado. I'm just gonna slide over there. There we go. All over the place. Miami. Super glad to have you guys here. Where's the last one? There you go. West Virginia, Missouri, California, New York City, Kentucky, London, Minnesota, New York City, Sacramento, Riverside. Awesome, awesome. It's good to see everybody. We're ready to rock and roll. Connecticut, San Jose, Texas, Australia, Denver, California, Santa Cruz, Texas. Awesome. Super glad to be able to be here, be able to talk to you guys tonight. I think we are good to go. Yeah, cool. All right, thanks for bearing with me. It took a little bit just to get technology all sorted up, but we're doing it a little bit different tonight, trying to be able to change it up to be able to help out. just how we're communicating and how we're effective with that. So lighting's a little funky tonight. Not sure how I like it. It's like way too bright on YouTube, but little by little. Anyways, on here talk about narcissism. Okay, newsflash, right? So if you guys didn't get a chance to be able to see some of the stuff we put up about being in North Carolina, we had a super awesome time working on actually doing all the plans for Texas, and super excited for that. We got a lot coming up with Texas. October 15th is the official thing. There's a couple different things that we're trying to work on, and there's going to be a lot of stuff we're trying to solidify. We might actually have some one-on-ones like live in person. We might actually do like a Q&A for like a select group of people. Also have like the meet and greet. So there's a bunch of different stuff. We're trying to amp it up and have it be pretty awesome. So we're super excited by this coming up here. Austin, Texas is going to be happening here October 15th. Maybe I turn this. October 15th. And I hit it. There we go. There we go. October 15th. So we're super excited about that. Anyways, if you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this platform to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. And a lot of people ask me, like, what's my journey? Like, what's my story? You know, for me, it wasn't like all of a sudden I had this like light bulb switch on. It wasn't like all of a sudden knew, oh my gosh, like I'm self-aware. It was a long period of time of learning, growing, and changing. So I finally got to the place where I was like, I think I might need to go to therapy. When I went to therapy, ended up getting to the place where I admitted, okay, this is who I am. This is what I'm going through. If you want a lot of details as far as how I got to that place of being self-awareness, go onto YouTube, check out my video, Self-Aware Narcissist. Would love to be able to share that with you. If you guys haven't a chance to be able to see yet, we do have an awesome app out that a lot of people here have downloaded, have used, are engaged with on a day-to-day basis. It's called the NARC app, NARC, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community. It's a community of like-minded people that have gotten out of the craziness or are getting out or are still in it and trying to have community and support to be able to help them as they continue on in their journey. Would love to have you be a part of that, to be able to learn more about narcissism, track your no contact, record your truth, engage with the weekly lives that we have inside that app. They're actually secured. That way it's not broadcasted to the whole public. And then also we have a monthly coaching. And that's where we do a Zoom call with everyone that wants to, but we do a Zoom call where you get to interact and see with a lot of different other survivors of narcissistic abuse, be able to hear coaching about the future of like what's going on, how to continue moving forward. Speaking of the future, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is the idea of boundaries. And I just did a video on this today, but I didn't touch on it. I didn't get the chance to get through everything that I wanted to get to on the video. With boundaries, I want you to think of this. A lot of times people think of boundaries and it's either one of two ways. Boundaries are either reactionary or they're actionary. So think of it like this. Like if you're in an abusive relationship and you get out, you're like, that is what I don't want anymore in my life. So that becomes a boundary. I don't want this person to like swear or yell at me or whatever it might be. So that becomes a boundary that I take with me into other relationships. Or they can be like action. They can be actionary of like the idea of like, hey, this is who I am. And I know this is a boundary that I want in my life to be able to keep me on the path that I want to go. And one of the things I want to try to encourage you of is a lot of times people struggle with the aspect of boundaries because they don't actually know who they are. They don't actually know the direction that they're going. So instead of thinking of like, what boundaries do I need to set up and kind of like worrying about that, start thinking about who are you? What direction are you going? What direction do you want to be? Who do you want to be in your life? Who do you want to live like as? And as you continue to go that direction, that starts to set up your own boundaries. Because if you define, hey, the person I'm going to be is going to be loving, respectful, and kind. And then you have someone that comes into your life that doesn't exemplify those things and is not willing to support you in those things, that is a boundary. And so it's something that a lot of times people complicate a whole lot of like thinking like, I don't know how to come up with boundaries, all this kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just simple of like getting super clear of who you are. And the more you figure out who you are and the direction you're going, the easier it is to come up with those boundaries because you know, hey, this is what I want in my life. And as a result, this is what I'm not going to tolerate in my life. Just a random tidbit as I was thinking about this. I attempted to set boundaries and he laughed and said, "Where on earth did you come up with this nonsense?" Yeah. A lot of times they'll want to devalue, demean, and distract you from your boundaries. And as a result, there's no point in being in those relationships because you have someone who doesn't respect you to start off with, but doesn't respect your boundaries coming into the place. Okay. Learning about them in therapy. I've started setting boundaries with my narc ex. So we do have a really good course that Bree, if you don't know who that is, it's Abuse is Abuse. Check out her on all the different platforms. She's got some great content. Also a narcissistic mom. So that's kind of like the spin that she comes at it with, also like OCD and anxiety stuff. So great person to get coaching from. But check out Bree. She has Abuse is Abuse, but she wrote a course for us that's actually on the narc app on boundaries and actually talking through that. So feel free to check that out because they have some really good information there. Setting mental boundaries for oneself is a good idea too. Set a time to reflect on the ex. Just come to say hi, hello. Or if the thought has no solution to it, it just causes you to stop thinking about it. Why is it okay for someone to sexually abuse somebody and get away with it with murder? Why is it okay that her parents are still supporting his abuser as well? I'm still suffering. So oftentimes when you have a parent that's still supporting or that is still like covering up for like an abuser or a narcissistic person, one, they might be abusers already. They might be narcissists. It might be a narcissistic familial system. And as a result, they're going to continue like hiding that. Or it could be the aspect of being enabling. And they just are going to continue to enable the other person while hiding it from the public eye because they don't want to be seen bad or they don't want to be seen like in a wrong light. Or you just have times where they see it and they know what's going on and they'd rather just kind of like shove it to the side and ignore it. Trying to figure out the lighting tonight is like weird. Let's see. There you go. YouTube, does that look better? You can see it. There you go. Brittany, what's up? Good to see you on here. Vicky, what's up? Absolutely will. We have no kids. Why is he stalking me after the discard? A lot of times they want to see what's going on. It's like my ear won't pop. I can like hear myself double. Why does my narc always drive by whenever I'm at work, home, restaurants? A lot of times it is control. If they can trigger you, they can control you. So like if they're going to drive by and you're going to be like, wait a second, what's going on? You might reach out. You might talk to them. They want to get you to reach out. Like, all right, let's talk about no contact for a second, okay? Because you all need to understand no contact means no contact, which means that there's no way for the narcissist to get back in your life. And a lot of people out here think, hey, I will go no contact by not responding. Okay. Not responding is not no contact. That still gives them an open door. That still gives them a place to put their foot in the door and walk back in eventually. And there's maybe like 20% of y'all watching right now that are like, no, it's not that big a deal. Okay. Here's the thing. I have not been doing this that long. Okay. I have been actively coaching since October. Since then, I have already had at least 3 people that I originally coached come back to me and start coaching again because they said I should have listened to you at the beginning and blocked them because I thought it wouldn't matter. I thought they wouldn't come back. I thought it was over, that they would respect my boundaries. And guess what? They never did. That's because it is typical with narcissists. Will come back, will go through your boundaries. It doesn't matter because if they are not blocked, the door is still open and they will come back. So you have to make sure to block, go no contact, ghost. Make sure that there's not a way for them to come back in. Otherwise, oftentimes they will. Okay? Freshly broken up. Would love to give examples to understand whether my ex is a narcissist struggling. Yeah, so a lot of times people are wondering about if their ex is a narcissist or like how are they behaving as far as like the narcissistic traits. So check it out as far as like look at the DSM-5, look at the 9 traits that are on there. I don't have it all up because I don't have my regular setup. We're changing stuff up as we speak. But the DSM-5 goes through the 9 characteristics. I've got a couple of videos on the 9 characteristics to understand, hey, this is what's actually going on in the narcissistic relationship. And we know that. That's why we leave the door open. I didn't see the answer to that one, or the question to that one. You block them, they contact you through different numbers. Yes, so you get a call blocker so that all the other numbers don't come through. You put your phone on do not disturb except for your contacts, or you change your number. Where there's a will, there's a way. The majority of time when people come up with excuses is because they haven't done the mindset, they haven't done the rewiring of their mind to actually say, hey, this is what I need to do. If you come out of the gate and you're like, hey, this is what I need to do, you'll do it. The problem is a lot of people don't want to do it because they're afraid of what that means about them, or they're afraid of like what's going to happen, or they're afraid of a lot of different things. But when it comes down to it, you're also afraid of your healing, your growth, your change, because that's what it takes. You can be in a narcissistic relationship and get out and be out of the relationship for years and still never be free from that relationship because you haven't done the work to rewire your mind, to break the trauma bond, to get through the rumination phase and figure out and discover who you actually are and the direction you're going. If you're trying to co-parent, then I would suggest you look up parallel parenting and also the BIF method to understand some of the best ideas and the ways to be able to co-parent. You can still go no contact. There's a lot of creators that talk about narcissism that are no contact with kids, that use a third-party app, third-party drop-off, third-party communication, anything like that. It is not impossible to go no contact. There's too many people that say it's impossible. I can give you several examples of people that have made it possible. It is possible. It's what are you willing to do to be free from that? Okay. I set a boundary, went no contact for 6 months, and he just committed suicide on Monday, claiming he cannot live without me, struggling with guilt, but I know it's not my fault. That's a lot to struggle with. I definitely hear you with that. It's a lot to struggle with. That's not something that you can control, obviously, and you can't control timing or anything like that either. But yeah, it's definitely not your fault. What if we prefer the toxic relationship than having nothing at all? How do we change that mindset? You have to rewire that mindset. Like there's something there as far as like if you prefer the toxic relationship over having nothing at all, like you have to realize that nothing at all isn't actually there. Like that it's like the idea that you're looking forward and you're like, I don't think I can do this because I don't see a future. Well, the problem is not that that future doesn't exist. The problem is you're not imagining that future. You're only limited in looking at what you see in the current moment. You haven't expanded the capacity of like looking up like, whoa, like there's a lot more things out there. There's a lot more people out there. There's a lot more things that I can do out there than where I am now. Okay. I live in the same town as him. I have no contact. You can do it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, restraining order is just a piece of paper. You do have to be careful, but a lot of times a restraining order can help. A restraining order is going to do nothing for the narcissist if they don't care, okay, which the majority of the time they don't. But a restraining order can help as long as you follow it up and make sure that that actually activates something. Maybe the police arresting, maybe like getting them kicked off the property, whatever it might be. Seems impossible to break that. He is living his best life, and I'm stuck on him, and I don't want to be with anyone else but him. My life seems so pointless. Your life seems pointless right now because you're only looking at that small sliver. Okay? Like when you were 4, when that person took your toy, like that seemed like the end of the world, but you have so much more of your life ahead of you. The problem is he's not living his best life. He's addicted. And he's a slave to his impulses and his compulsion. And you're stuck on him because the story you have in your head is the wrong story, or the story you have in your head is based on fantasy. It's not based on reality. And until you rewire that, you're always going to want to go back time and time and time again. Do they always project these characteristics onto you? Keeps meeting regular whilst using consider. Yeah, a lot of times they will keep projecting it onto you because they don't want to hold those feelings. So they put it back on you. I went no contact and blocked. I have not heard from them. Only once to ask me to remove some things I left. I did not respond. Do they always hoover after they leave, or is it over? Typically, they will hoover. Okay. But if they don't hoover, that doesn't mean you weren't worth it. If they don't hoover, it just means they moved on to the next supply. Like it doesn't really matter. A lot of times you will have narcissists that will hoover. Hoover does not mean a good or a bad thing. What it means is they want to control you. Okay. Hoover does not imply that they care. So like for everybody that's like, wait, mine didn't hoover or mine did hoover, that whole kind of thing. Sorry, this ear won't pop and it's like distracting me a lot tonight. What's the difference between love bombing and a healthy relationship? I would say the first and foremost thing would be manipulation. Love bombing is meant to distract. So love bombing is one of three things to distract you from your reality. Like love bombing is, let's take the perception, let's take the bad thing that just happened, let's throw a lot of love at it, let's throw money at it, let's throw a bunch of other things at it so that it gets you distracted from it, and so that you no longer focus on that issue. You focus on something else. Hoover is when the narcissist tries to get you back. When you've broken up or the narcissist has dumped you, and then they come back into your life for the whole purpose of controlling you. What if they Hoover, but it doesn't work? That's why we say no contact. No contact and block, so that there's no way for a Hoover to work. Okay? Hoover means suck you back in. Yep, just like the vacuum. Hoover you back in. Can narcissists have empathy? Like when he realized he was hurting me, he many times hinted at breaking up, but I said no, and he stayed, but continued his hurtful behavior. So that has nothing to do with empathy. Narcissists can have a level of empathy, but it comes in like two different ways. Either one, it's completely lacking of empathy, or two, they have empathy, they see it, but they refuse to give it, which is even worse. And I think there's a lot more narcissists in this category that have empathy, but refuse to actually give it. For me, like an example would be if I did something wrong and it hurt my wife and she would be there crying, there'd be a moment that I'd know in my head, hey, I could go up and I can comfort her. I could give her empathy. But if I do that, if I go up and I give her empathy, that sign, that thing of me going up there, giving her a hug or whatever, giving her empathy, will mean that she is validated in her feelings and I am wrong. Therefore, I can't give her that empathy. Okay. So that's even like the worst part of like not just having no empathy. There's a lot of times they have empathy, but they're like, wait a second, I can't give that. Okay. He was his worst one the other day. He said he was moving out. He's been staying in the spare room. A lot of times they'll get worse at the very end. Why can't I bring myself to leave? Is this my self-worth? Am I scared of what comes after him? You might be scared of what comes after him, but a lot of times when you're scared to leave, it's the idea that either one, you can't see a vision or reality after that person because you're so addicted, you're so trauma bonded, and also you have to rewire your mindset. Otherwise, you're just looking, thinking, hey, this is it. This is all I have. Okay? Bringing yourself to leave, it does have to do with self-worth along the idea of like, I'm worth more than how this person is treating me. Is it normal for narcissists to be in an on and off relationship? Yes, absolutely. Even after 3 weeks of no contact, I still think a lot of him. Does it mean I'm not healing? No, it doesn't mean you're not healing. What it means is you might either have a trauma bond or you might be still stuck on him because you haven't changed the story in your head. Okay. A lot of times people get confused about this because you could be with a narcissist for 1 month, 1 year, 20 years, still get away, leave, block, go no contact, and still not be free. Because unless you actually change the story that you're believing, the emotions, the feelings will activate and it will take you down the same path as always. And you'll get to the place where you're like, wait a second, I still want them back. And that's the idea of like, I know in my mind this relationship is toxic, but I still want this person back. And when you still want them back, even though you know it's toxic, that is the aspect of a trauma bond. And the trauma bond's built on hope or potential or cognitive dissonance. Whereas thinking these people are going to change, they're going to get better. Maybe they'll understand my pain. Maybe they'll understand everything I've gone through, all this type of stuff. And it keeps pulling you there. But until you actually acknowledge the truth of the situation and focus on, hey, this is what actually happened, you don't get free. They're very premeditated, so their reactions are filtered. No empathy is your right. It held off. No sex isn't because they don't want it. It's a punishment and left you to wonder why they're doing. Yeah, a lot of times. Yes, you get addicted to them just like people get addicted to drugs. Yeah, 100%. It's just like drugs. It's like detoxing with drugs. My ex finally stopped communicating with me. What's he up to? Doesn't matter. Block. Go no contact. Don't let them back in. Okay? My ex had delusions and paranoia so bad engulfed both our time and energy. Yeah, absolutely. That was me. I was in a 10-year relationship with a toxic person, got out, was in a whole different relationship, got out of that one, wound up with my toxic person. I never healed. And a lot of times this happens when people go from relationship to relationship. Like, I'm not saying like that y'all are like in this cycle, but a lot of times people go from one toxic person to another and they don't realize it because that's their norm. Either they grew up in a toxic family or the first person. I just did a video on this actually, from overt to covert. You know, how many times people get with a narcissist, they realize it's a narcissist, they leave the narcissist, or they're in that relationship and a covert narcissist comes in and saves them. That's when it gets really crazy, because a lot of times you'll run into the next relationship, be the next one didn't look anything like it. So I had no clue. Okay. Trauma bond is when you bond over something or coming close and comforted by shared pain and always working on the forgiveness. It's intermittent highs and lows. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's definitely like the highs and lows. That's part of the abuse that happens. It's fairly true that it can take many times to finally go no contact for good. Yeah, a lot of times people won't leave. A lot of times it's known for like abuse. A lot of times it takes 7 times before people leave. I don't think that means you just have 7 times to be able to like burn up. But I do think a lot of times people have the knowledge, but they don't have the practicality to be able to put it in, to actually put it in a system to rewire the mind and get out. That's how I work with people in like one-on-one coaching, is try to help people like rewire their mindset so that they actually are able to get out of the relationship, because otherwise they stay stuck. What happens if you tell a covert narcissist that I know that they're a narcissist? They'll use it to abuse you. I was discarded once a year, and it seemed like around the same time of year, something was up with that. I'm never really sure what. Sometimes they have exact cycles. I knew one person that it was every 6 months, almost the day, every 6 months that they would leave, walk out, come back a month later. Can a narcissist create another narcissist through emotional abuse? No, it's through childhood development. That's why it would be, it's not genetic behavior per se. It's a little bit of both. Okay. So like, think of it like the idea of as an early child. So from 6 to 18 months, how much they're connected to the primary caregiver. If there's like a big disconnect there, like there's more opportunity for that emotional side of the brain to not kick in and not be built as much, not have that gray matter built as much. And then as they continue growing up, to not have the emotional maturity, maybe get into an abusive family, maybe a trauma. It could be the idea of overbearing parents, over enabling parents. All different types of that can help like form that personality. I actually feel numb. Sometimes I don't even feel bad what he did. Now the focus is just to check him out mentally. Absolutely. You got to change that mindset so they don't come back. A narcissist jealous of the love mother has for her children. They can be. It's annoying because someone else is paying attention to someone else versus the narcissist. Feel like I made so much progress during those 6 weeks, and definitely is rough to start all over again. Love to book a one-on-one. Yeah, you can book a one-on-one if you go to rawmotivations.com, or you can download the Narc app. There's a couple places you can click the link in any of my bios. Would love to be able to talk to you. This week has been very busy, but I think tomorrow there's still like 3 openings. If we fill up, it'll be a crazy day. But yeah, thank you. I finally got the beard trimmed a little bit. It's getting a little too bushy. Just joining in. Do narcissists get a higher sadistic sort of supply from seeing people hurt, or they just don't care? They just don't care. A lot of times you have the sadistic aspect being a little bit more on the sociopath side. Could prison influence a personality disorder? Might reveal it a little bit, but it's not going to make it happen. Okay. Mine always said, I'm a good person. Yeah. A lot of times they want to convince themselves and everybody else I'm a good person. I did a video on that just a couple days ago on TikTok. It started off like, I'm a good person, I'm a good person, I'm a good person. I had a couple people like stitch it, be like, be careful, because sometimes the survivor is always trying to convince a good person. I was like, well, if you watch the whole video, it says I'm a good person at the beginning, and it gets to the end, and it talks about how they say they're a good person, then they go back to the same abusive behavior. That's not a survivor. Like, some people got that little messed up. But yeah, a narcissist a lot of times will want to say I'm a good person because they're trying to convince themselves, and they'll try to convince other people. Are you coming to Connecticut in your tour? Not this year. We gotta figure out our stuff going on next year. So the big one that we have coming up is going to be in Austin, Texas. That's happening October 15th. We're still trying to figure out, honestly, how to make it work. I'm doing a lot of the planning. A part of it just being like completely transparent. Like right now, as I'm trying to figure out venues, like we're trying to figure out a venue, one that's going to house like one that's going to house us, because right now there's going to be like 12 of us creators or 12 people in the party that's going to be there. But then also for the actual event, we're looking at doing like a 9 to 5 event with one-on-ones, with question and answer times, and also like meet and greet sections. So there's a whole aspect that we're trying to put together and kind of like raise it up and make it a lot better. But honestly, one of the things I'm trying to figure out now is like not how just to do all the logistics, but then also how to reserve everything, because not everything is free or like cheap. So we're trying to figure out, do we charge for different things? Like, how do we do it to actually make it work? But we got people flying in from all over the country. There's going to be, I believe, 9 of the Narc Avengers, so 9 out of 16 that are going to be in Austin, Texas for this, to be able to talk, ask questions, like do a bunch of things. I think we're going to try to do individual like one-on-ones there, like in person, for like a period of the day in one sense, have a select like Q&A, and then also meet and greet. So we're just trying to figure it out. There's a lot of different venues that we're looking at, a lot of different places. So super excited. Would you agree that a narcissist will be dishonest about how they feel as a form of gaslighting and manipulation? Yes. I mean, part of it's they're going to be honest. They're going to be dishonest no matter what. But they'll use any dishonesty for manipulation, like for their benefit, for the mask benefit. Does an ex-narc really forget about you? No, they don't. I'm in a bad spot. Narc won't leave, and I can't afford to very little family. Afford to leave very little family. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Sometimes we've had people even go to like homeless shelters and stuff like that, just to be able to get free, depending on where you're at. Can a narc truly love and choose one person they will not manipulate? Not if they're not self-aware and they're willing on growing, healing, and changing. No, I don't think so. Can they change without therapy? No, I don't think a narc can change without therapy or God. That would be amazing. I'd love to open my home to anyone in the tour to stay for free if you ever come to Connecticut. We'll keep that in mind. Appreciate it. My narc has everyone thinking I'm the crazy one. I'm a whore, when actually him consciously lying and cheating, and he is well known, so people actually fall for the bullshit he posts. Yeah. So I mean, that's like the aspect of like a smear campaign. Yeah, the smear campaign is like pretty awful. So, but the biggest thing with the smear campaign is you focus on being you and ignoring the smear. And over a period of time, people start to see, wait, like all this stuff that this person said about this person is not coming to fruition. Like they're still there. They're still being the same person that I knew them before. Is it normal that he kisses me like I'm a sister, but says I'm a soulmate? I wouldn't necessarily say normal, but yeah, I mean, that can be. What does it mean when they say I regret losing you? If you're broken up, it means they want you back, and they're going to do whatever they can to get you back. If you're still together, then it's them trying to make you feel better that they're discarding you. Is it because I left that he didn't discard me? I had to change my nose. Yeah, I lost part of that. I'm sorry. Personal question. Have you ever told someone you're a narcissist as an excuse to justify your behavior? No, because the narcissist stuff was stuff that I learned like later on in life. It wasn't stuff that I was like, oh, like I'm an asshole. Like, hey, I'm a narcissist. Okay. No. Like the only thing I can think of would be like maybe at the very beginning, but I mean, we're talking like a couple months, because I also like, once I got to the place where I admitted it, I got into therapy, but I denied it for a long period of time. So it wasn't like I touted that line for a while. Do narcissists ever regret losing their best supply? They regret losing their best manipulation, their biggest win, or the biggest control, but they don't really regret like losing the person. Okay. Will they treat a new supply better if they make good money? No, it means they're going to manipulate someone better to be able to get their money, but they're not going to treat them better. What's the story behind all the crying, yelling, and tantrums when they get called out and their actions? That's a good question. I'm trying to think like how the best way to put it. So like when they get called on the action, so you might be talking about, there's been a couple videos on different social medias where you see like that one person like snap. I even did like a video on it. And like that idea where it meets like extreme rage, almost like paranoia, almost just like blowing up, like busting out in one sense. It's like panic. It's like the idea of like, wait a second, I just got caught and I can't figure out a solution. It'd be like looking forward, and there's like 20 different routes that I can go, And each one has me be accountable. And so as a result, like it's just like this like intense like frustration, panic, and like freak out, because if you freak out in those moments, sometimes there might be one of those paths that opens up that doesn't have accountability standing guard by it. And so like the rage will come out, the throwing things, the crazy stuff that'll happen, because like in the mindset, it's just a giant blow up, because I have to be able to distract. I did a video just recently on YouTube which talks about distracting, because the goal is I got to get you to distract from the situation, from the accountability that you're putting me through. Would you call someone physically abusive a narcissist if they're behaving like a narcissist? As a narcissist, what would hurt you the most? Typically rejection, or not really exposure anymore since I'm on here. Typically rejection, or loss of control. That's typically what like the aspect is going through. Okay. How do you support a survivor? I'm not exactly sure the question. So we do a lot of free content that are on all those different social media platforms, a lot of long videos on YouTube. We do have the NARC app where we try to partner with people to give them information, try to be able to get coaching. I do one-on-one coaching as well to try to be able to help people as they break free, try to change their mindset, try to heal, grow, and change. Think I figured out my issue. If a guy's too nice, I don't trust him and I think he's hiding something bad. But if he's a bad boy with a hard exterior, I think he's hiding, he cares. So twisted. Yeah. I mean, that's a good self-awareness stuff to be able to look at and work on. Do narcs ever question their own motives and intentions? Not really. They live in the moment, and like the past is the past. So they kind of like move through. Overall, what's the percentage that a person with narcissism will get therapy and change? Like 1%. What is the best way to tell a covert narcissist friend that they're a narcissist though they go to therapy? Set boundaries and walk out of their life. Is not fully moving out a form of control? 100%. When it gets caught, narcissists start scratching the walls and use flying monkeys. If you lose control, does the narcissist think they could get it back one day? Sometimes, but it depends if it's like complete loss of control. Why won't he say sorry and then denies everything he said? I feel like I'm going crazy. That's on purpose. Like it's trying to make you feel like you're crazy. You're trying to get to the place where, like, wait a second, like maybe I am crazy, because it's one of the three things that a narcissist tries to do to distort your reality, and that's gaslighting, trying to change what happened or what just went down or what you just said, so that it distracts you from the actual problem, from the actual issue. Are you still married to your wife? Yes, I am. You talked about healing by changing your story. Advice for someone who is raised by narcissists. One, acknowledge the truth. And two, focus on what's actually real. Like not just the truth, but like what's real in the relationship. Because a lot of times people look at the relationships, they look at the things that have happened in the past, and they view the best parts of it. Okay, so like think of it, a lot of times people have like the wrong story in their mindset because they're not viewing it in reality. So think of it this way, like look back on the past relationships, and what you're going to see is almost like looking back on like a mountain range. People will look at it and all of a sudden they'll just see all these different peaks of the mountains, and that's all they can see from far away. And they see the peaks of all like the good times, and they miss out on all the pits, all the bad times in between the mountains. So like when you kind of pull it out and you look from a topographical view, you see, hey, all these mountains, these peaks, these good moments are really small. They're really tiny. And then these pits in between are huge. And the problem is a lot of times people focus, even like trauma, like focuses on the good times, and they don't focus on the reality. The focus is on the good date versus the devaluing that happened before the date versus the screaming that happened after the date. So you have to look at like all of it to be able to help to start to rewire the mindset. The problem is when people try to rewire the mindset, you have to understand it gets kicked off by the emotions, by the feelings that you give to it. And if you don't change how those are wired, you're going to go back to the same story time and time and time again. How often do you narcissists use God to get what they want? If they're a narcissist that's spiritual, a lot of times. So sad that without therapy, narcissists seem to not deserve love. It's not that they don't deserve it, it's that they're not able to engage with it because they're unwilling to identify what's going on inside and be honest with themselves. How do I get my husband to understand the dangers of having his narc mother in our lives? Personally seen enough and know she's dangerous, but he wants contact still. I want no contact. He needs to be educated and understand like the story one that's going through his head, but also educated about narcissism. What if they want to keep their source? Would they start a smear campaign? Why, if they want to keep their source, would they start a smear campaign? To control or manipulate either you to come back or you to communicate with them. What do I do if I think my son is picking up his dad's narcissism? Well, understand that it can't, traits can be picked up, but he can't become narcissistic till later in life when those are like ingrained in one sense. So it's being there for your son, like helping understand, like, hey, this is how we handle emotions. Like, this is how we work through these, providing a safe place for those emotions to be. Why do they mirror your behavior? Oftentimes it's because they don't have a personality underneath. It's very like shallow, so it's easy to mirror someone else. And a lot of times it's a form of flattery, so you end up falling in love with yourself. I had to give up my whole entire church family because the pastor was his best friend. Yeah. Can't stand how they mimic your behavior because they don't have a real personality. Yeah, no, absolutely. And now mimicking is like easy to do because if you mimic the other person, it makes it easy for them to connect with you, to fall in love with you, like all different types of things like that. Then all of a sudden you realize, like, wait a second, the person I thought was exactly the same as me actually doesn't have anything like me. Brogan, I don't think I have a good answer on that one. Can therapy help save a marriage with a narc? Not together. It made me look like a crazy person at church and made him look sick. Yeah, absolutely. Mother-in-law discarded me and my kids after I set boundaries after my husband died. Yeah. There's several people that have like mother-in-laws that are narcissistic that aren't in their lives anymore. It's one of those things that you don't see a lot talked about, and there hasn't been a lot of content. I haven't done a lot of content on it either, but narcissistic mother-in-laws, like that's huge. And especially when people are like, oh, like all men are narcissists. Well, a lot of the men that are narcissists came from narcissistic families and households that it was the mother. It was the woman in the relationship that was narcissistic that a lot of times produced a narcissistic son. Not always, not a blanket statement, just saying. What can I do right now? I'm begging for an answer. An answer for what? If it's not like right there, then I saw like the gaslighting and had to like leave the church or whatever, but like I don't know what answer you're looking for. Refer the narc-in-law to Bree. Yeah, check out Abuse is Abuse because she talks about it from the not the mother-in-law, the mother's perspective. Okay, because she had a narcissistic mom. I need to move on and I have family support, but he still is calling me. It makes it so hard. So he's going to keep calling you until you close the door. He's going to keep walking into your life. Okay. Oh, Bree's there. There we go. Bree's in the house. That's hilarious. Good thing Brittany wasn't saying anything bad. If you guys don't follow already, follow Abuse is Abuse. She just dropped in. It's like the last comment that was just there. If you guys don't follow her, click on her real quick. Give her a follow. She's got some awesome content. She did the Boundaries course that's inside the NARC app. She also just came out with her own course. Drop in the info, Brie, because I forget the name of it, but drop the info in there. That way people can know what it is. But you can actually go to her bio. I think it's like Healing After Abuse or something like that. But yeah, drop it in there on TikTok and let people know. I'll announce it for everybody. Why can't you ever get closure from a narcissist? So closure doesn't come from a narcissist. Okay, one, they're not going to give it to you. And then two, that's not where it comes from. Okay. All right. The course that she has, everybody, is Rebuilding After Abuse. Okay. So on all the platforms, you can type in Abuse is Abuse. Go find Bree. She's got a great course, Rebuilding After Abuse. Really good course. Go check it out. Okay. Closure doesn't come from the narcissist. Closure comes from you. Like, the thing you have to understand is closure. When you're thinking about closure, normally what people are looking for is they're looking for another person to acknowledge what happened. Okay. They're looking for another person to acknowledge and say, I did that and I'm sorry. Okay. You're not going to get that I'm sorry. And you're not going to get that I did that from the narcissist. So what you're looking for is you're looking for an acknowledgement of the actions. The thing is, you already know the acknowledgement of the actions because you're the one who lived it. You're the one who experienced it. But it has to take a step back and be like, wait a second. Am I actually viewing this situation in an aspect of truth? Am I actually realizing that this actually happened? So the first step is being honest with yourself. And then the second step is not just being honest with yourself, but having to make sure that the story you're telling yourself is actually based on truth. Because otherwise the narcissist walks you in and puts you into a fog. How common do you think narcissism is in men? Probably like 60%, 65%. Closure comes from us. Shut the door. Absolutely. I know, isn't this great? It's a good shirt. It's one of my least controversial shirts, but I'm sure someone out there can find something to be controversial about. I have to focus more on the way I feel than to care about him. It's the only way. You have to focus on you. You know, in coaching, when I work with people in one-on-one across the globe, like, we talk about the trauma bond, we talk about the narcissist, they ask me questions, like, we go into it and we talk about it. I answer a lot of different things from the narcissist perspective. And then the focus has to change. Like, the focus is not going to be on the narcissist for the rest of your life. The focus is on them for this period of time, but then it has to change on you. Who are you? What is your purpose in life? Why are you put here? What are you working on next? Yeah, if you guys have to leave, it's totally fine. The replay will be on YouTube, so feel free to check it out on YouTube. You'll be able to see it there, okay? Thanks, man. I was in the fog for a long time. The fog is really hard to get out of, okay? Y'all are hilarious when it comes to shirts. Yes, it's not a white shirt, since everybody couldn't read the comments last time. What do you know about BPD? The girl that I was with that threw me for a loop had BPD and narcissistic traits. The joke is we don't talk about BPD, but I think I'm going to work on doing another video about BPD. We'll kind of stir the pot a little bit. I'll just read off the DSM-5 again and see who comes out of the woodwork. He would make himself a cup of tea and sat there on the sofa. He doesn't bat an eyelid, and I could never do that to anyone. On the NARC app, what part will help me with dating? Because I'm trying, but I have the fear of the next narcissist. So on the NARC app, there's actually a new course that came out this month. Middle of this month, which is called Healthy Dating After Abuse. Our very own Ro Faye did that. So Roller Coaster of Love. If you don't follow her, she's on all the platforms as well. Roller Coaster of Love. She does an amazing job. Where did I get my shirt? Orlando. At Disney. The back and forth in my head, intrusive thought, triggers, emotional flashbacks are a lot to deal with. Yeah, absolutely. Are you happier now that you're self-aware and working on yourself? Yes. Because, I mean, a narcissist, before they're aware, they have like infatuation. They don't really have happiness, and they definitely don't have joy, and they don't understand gratitude, which helps prompt all that. Yes, it is in Google Play as well. Apple Store and Google Play. But has you and your wife's relationship improved now that you're aware? Yes, absolutely, because I'm not abusive to her. Like, there's a big change. I've asked about people with BPD and the similarities with vulnerable NPD, and a lot say it's nearly identical. That is a really good question. There's not a lot of people who have brought that up before. So BPD and vulnerable NPD. So like the difference that I would say is like a vulnerable NPD. So vulnerable / covert, covert's the new vulnerable, or vulnerable's the new covert, blah, blah, blah. But like a vulnerable NPD typically, shut up, please. Vulnerable NPD might not be having like the aspect of like to unalive themselves. Okay. Like they might not actually be like going that route. A person with BPD, like a couple of the things that I normally like notice is like BPD a lot of times has either threats of suicide or is going to do like self-harm or is going to do like self-mutilating behaviors or self-harm behaviors. So there's different things like that you have to watch out for on the BPD side, but they also engage more with their emotions. They're just like a higher level. It's kind of like more blown out in one sense. BPD has empathy. I know several BPD that have no empathy at all. I think they engage with emotions more than they do necessarily have empathy. But yeah. NPD is narcissistic personality disorder. BPD is borderline personality disorder. Intentions and motives are very different between BPD and BPD, BPD and NPD. So yeah, think of it this way: BPD, the raging river that's underneath BPD is abandonment, is a fear of abandonment. The raging river that's underneath NPD is shame. And so they're both avoidant in that aspect. They want to avoid being abandoned and they want to avoid shame. And where I believe that they get crisscrossed over, or I think they get crisscrossed over, is the idea of rejection. Because I think rejection touches on shame and touches on abandonment at the same time. That's just my own thoughts, but throwing it out there. Okay. Do you think he is a narcissist after what I've told you? I have no clue because I'm like got like three columns going here. The more of these videos you listen to, the faster you get out of the fog. Hurry. And I'm so nervous to go back into the fog, so I'm a bit guarded with him. Why are you going back at all? Only go to therapy and understand. So you shouldn't be consciously walking back into the fog because the fog is fear, obligation, and guilt. And the narcissist walks you out into the middle of the field to put you in the fog so they can control you. Okay? Can you speak to narcissism and addiction? Mine absolutely won't look at narc traits, only will admit to addictions. Trying to focus on the addictions. Be like, okay, let's get all these addictions like out. Okay. BPD, a lot of times they can give medication for the depression aspect of BPD. Also, like with BPD, some therapy has been proven to work, just like they're experimenting with different types of therapy for narcissists as well. Excuse me. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you for the roller coaster of love after being 30 years with a narcissist husband, just getting out of it. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that's helped. How to support someone with post-separation abuse. My husband is still in the cycle of ex-wife. Be there for them. And I mean, I don't have a good answer for that. Be there for them, help understand best you can, help them set boundaries. I don't have a good answer for that. I'm sorry. Does an narcissist deflect when caught in a lie? Absolutely. Distract, deflect, like that's textbook of let me avoid this as quick as possible. How common is it for a narcissist to be a substance abuser? Pretty common. I wish I could move on. I even told him, you can move on. It is possible. So for everybody that thinks they're stuck in a trauma bond, like the aspect of being stuck in a trauma bond where hey, this is toxic, but I still want to go back, reach out to get help. Okay, number one, I would love to talk to you. Go to rawmotivations.com, click a link in a bio. Okay, that's the sales pitch. Okay, if you don't want to talk to me because I'm a self-aware narcissist, I don't care. Then go to a therapist. Then type in hashtag Narc Avengers and pick one out of the other 16 that's here willing to help you grow, heal, and change. Okay? Because there's a lot of people that are stuck in a trauma bond and they might have the knowledge, but they don't have the way to put it together. You might have all the pieces to the puzzle, but you can't figure out how to actually put the puzzle pieces together that say, hey, you can get out. Okay? If you guys want to work with me one-on-one, I'd love to be able to do that. There's several people in here tonight that have had one-on-ones with me or do coaching, or they're inside the NARC app and they get like the monthly coaching. There's a lot of different things. But if you don't want to work with me because I'm a narcissist, that's totally fine. I don't care. Go find someone that's going to help you get out of the trauma bond, because you have to work on acknowledging the truth, rewiring the mindset, changing the story that you're believing, living in the reality of truth and not the fantasy. Okay? Because otherwise, yeah, you'll go back. I went back 6 months and now I'm leaving for good. The good times plague my mind more than the abuse, accusation, and fights. And yeah, it's set up that way. And trauma is set up that way, where it's only going to have you look at the good times. Why is my ex so into porn? So that's like the idea of ego and entitlement. I'm entitled to this. It fills me up. It's another form of addiction, which is a form of sedation. Do they use future faking more if they think that you're going to leave? Yes. Every time I think I've got my truth, it's like he rewires me. Yeah, so take back your power. Let's work on changing the story so you believe what's actually true. Live in truth. So hard. I've been in therapy twice a week for almost a year. Trauma bond is still strong. Shannon, I'd love to talk to you because I've talked to a lot of different people that they've gained more out of talking through that process and breaking that aspect than they have sometimes with therapists, because not all therapists understand how to do it. Not all therapists can walk you through the truth and then figuring out the story that you're believing. So figuring out the feelings, the emotions that trigger the story that you're believing, and then figure out what's the facts. How do these actually match up? And then what's the actual story that you need to believe? And then how do we implement that and integrate that into your life so that you now have a new perspective that's based on truth? I can't do it alone. I need professional help because this consumes my life. 100% get help. My ex would hide money around the house and then totally financial abuse. Yes. Therapists couldn't help. There's a lot of therapists that out there that either one, they don't know what narcissism is. They don't know how to deal with it. Some therapists don't even meet with narcissists because they are like, it's useless. It's pointless. Other therapists don't have a clue of how to be able to help with it. Okay. Like, I've met with therapists, Leah's met with therapists, like as self-aware narcs on the platform, trying to help people heal, grow, and change. I've met with therapists that they come into the one-on-one because they've been with a narcissist and they're like, I know all this information. I know this stuff, but it didn't look like this in person. It didn't look like this in real life. And so then I got to help walk them through the whole section of healing, growth, and change and rewiring the mindset. My previous therapist actually defended my narc because he was a first responder. Whew. That's crazy. I mean, it's common. Sorry, it's common, but it is crazy because it's like so frustrating that they can't see it. And the majority of therapists a lot of times don't see it. I can't tell if he's a narcissist or not just by making a cup of tea and going silent. I'm sorry, it's not that simple. There's 9 different traits that they can check the box. They need to have at least 5 in order to be considered diagnosed. I'm starting to think my life was only filled with narcissists. How can I stop creating links with narcissists? Tell you right now, turn it around and focus on you. Because the reason why the majority of narcissists, the reason why people get into cycles with narcissists is typically, number 1, they don't know who they are. And number 2, they don't set boundaries. And so as a result, they're used to the abuse. They're used to letting a person come into their life and hurt and abuse them and run right over them. I don't know if I'm the narcissist or him. Would love to talk to you and try to work through that. Because there's a lot of times the narcissist will try to confuse the victims and make them think that they're narcissistic. It's the idea of projecting. How do you find a therapist who understands? I did a video about this on YouTube, actually. It's like looking for a therapist who understands like narcissism abuse, like looking for a therapist or tips for therapists. I don't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, there's a lot of different things. Like when I was looking for a therapist, I was looking for one specifically that had narcissistic, like had NPD like in their background. So they understood it. You attract everyone, set boundaries early and often learn the red flags to avoid falling in again. Yeah. Coming out of a relationship with one, you notice narcissistic traits right away. Yes, but I just recorded a video on this the other day. I think it comes out next week. There is a whole nother aspect, a whole nother thing that we haven't talked about very much. And that's the idea of being with a narcissist and getting rescued from that relationship to be with another narcissist. Either one, because people jump really fast, or two, because they didn't see how the other person was actually the same person, but disguised differently. I have a video coming out that's called Overt to Covert. Like, because this is what a lot of times people get. They'll get with an overt narcissist and they're like, oh my gosh, like this person's a narcissist. I need to leave. Let me get out of this. And they get out and they go straight to a covert narcissist because some of the stuff is similar and feels like normal or feels good. But they're like, but they didn't look anything like, they didn't act anything like. Well, that's because the abuse is a lot slower and it's a lot more hidden. Okay. What made you so sure that you're a narcissist and not narcissistically inclined? One would be the DSM-5 and two would be my therapist. How can a narcissist have a conscience when they're living a double life for 15 years to different families, especially when the other woman knows he's married and the two kids she has to blame also? So they don't have a conscience, or their conscience is very seared. But like that's really what it is. It's like asking, like, how can they love me? Well, they don't. Like that's the problem. They love their mask. They love what they're putting out there. I didn't realize my father was highly narcissistic until I started healing and looking within as to why I was repeating the behavior. A lot of times you repeat the behavior because it's what you've seen demonstrate, or it's what you've grown up in. Apologies, but you say I can go about booking one-on-one. You can go to my website, either rawmotivations.com, or you can click the link on any of my bios, or you can go inside the NARC app, which is NARC, download on Apple or Google Play, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community, NARC. You can download it there. You can book one-on-ones there. If you're signed up as a premium supporter, you can get access to the weekly lives, to the monthly coaching, and to discounted one-on-ones. There's a whole different aspect of it there as well. When I say silent, I mean for days. I know floods of tears begging him to talk to me. So that could be the aspect of like the silent treatment, or like stonewalling you. Do they always come back, even after a horrible discard of me blocking him? I would say plan on them always coming back. So you barricade the door. You make sure that they can't get back in. Got Roller Coaster of Love in the house. We just mentioned your course earlier. So she's got an awesome course on the NARC app, which is Healthy Dating After Abuse. If you guys don't follow, she's on all the platforms that we're on tonight. Type in Roller Coaster of Love. _ Roller Coaster of Love, but she's on all the platforms. Follow her. She's a really great coach. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. How do you deal with my ex-narcissistic husband when I have 2 teenage kids and they know everything? I don't hide anything from them. Good. You shouldn't hide anything from them, because otherwise, if you do, you'll get to the place where they grow up and they start realizing you've hid stuff, and then you'll be the bad person. Like, keep it clear, keep it transparent. Don't shame the other person, but be there for them emotionally. Create a safe place where they can actually come in, they can talk to you about the things that are going on, and you can engage with them in a healthy way. I ended up married to a covert narcissist for 14 years, then ended up with an overt narcissist because my boundaries weren't good. I thought I was healed, and the love bombing of the overt got to me. Yeah, absolutely. So you have like the opposite story. I just mentioned like the overt to the covert. Yeah, absolutely. Set up boundaries. He broke them. I got triggered when I found out he drank. Absolutely. He told me once, I don't dare leave you, and you will leave me if it has to be. Don't understand what I'm. He told me once that I won't ever leave you, and you will leave me if it has to be. Almost like he knew that you were going to leave him. Lots of us have an idea. I record or keep records of abuse. Does that make me narcissistic? No. That could mean you're being careful, especially if you have to go through the court system. You need to record everything. Let's see. Why would they start letting their mask slip in front of certain people after 7 years of only showing you? Sometimes it's laziness. Sometimes it's opening up a little bit because they just don't care. As they get older, a lot of times the mask slips a lot more. Yeah, you have to record to prove that it's real. No, absolutely. So like the difference is, so like when you're worried about like, am I the narcissist or not? The difference is like when you're recording to make sure that you're not crazy, and then when you're when someone is recording to make another person look abusive, like that's the aspect of reactive abuse. So the reactive abuse is where I'm going to keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you and pushing you to get to the place where you respond in a way that looks abusive. And as a result, then I can video you, I can sit back and relax and just let you like blow off a bunch of steam and be like, see, you're the crazy one. It's like, that's the difference between like recording is a narcissist will record to try to make you look abusive, or other people will record because they just want to understand, like, I'm not crazy. He knew he would never leave you alone. They were persistent and wanted control over you. Yeah. Mine never left. It pushed me to break up with him so he could play the victim. 100%. That's why a lot of times they want you to break up with them. They don't want the relationship. They want the relationship to burn up and you to leave. That way they can say it wasn't them. How to deal with an ex-narc who continues to emotionally abuse the children. He also brainwashing them against me so he can win, wants them to choose to live with him. You got to be honest with your kids. You got to be truthful. You got to be able to connect with them emotionally. You got to be able to work on being a safe place for them, because you can't control what he's doing on the other side, especially if that's how it's wrapped up in like a parenting agreement. Got a restraining order for 1 year, and he finally stopped with the no caller IDs. Will he stop calling? A lot of times they won't. So get like a call blocker or change your number. Why did he start physically abusing me 2 months into our marriage and not when we were dating? Because he'd already conquered you. He'd already got to the place where you were married, and then now you were completely his, so he could go on to abusing you. Mine would just say he was leaving, but when I helped him pack the last time, he was suddenly begging. It's the flip at the last end. Check out on YouTube, narcissists at the end of the relationships. A lot of times they flip, and all of a sudden they're trying to do everything that you asked them to do for the entire relationship. It's not because it's true. It's because they flipped at the very end to use it to manipulate. Look at that. Abuse is abuse jumped on Instagram side. If you guys don't follow on Instagram, there she is. Abuse is abuse. Coach Rowe jumped off of TikTok, and I don't see anybody on Facebook or YouTube. But anyways, yeah, that flip. Yeah, the flip is like crazy. How to tell my sister that she's with a narcissist. Send her a couple videos. Marriage is a trap. They know it's hard to leave you now. Yeah, that's why a lot of narcissists like want to get married, want to have a baby, like all that kind of stuff. They want to lock you in. He came back and offered for me to be the side piece. Whew. The audacity. That is crazy. A lot of times you have narcissists do the flip at the very end. So like check out the videos, a narcissist at the end of the relationship. And what you'll see is a lot of times they'll change stuff at the very end to try to make you think that they're changing. But the thing is, they're actually not. It's just a manipulative tool. I never even bothered to do the flip on me. It's okay. Block, go no contact, run. So threatening to leave, they will think it will get you back in the honeymoon. I knew that face. Yeah. He cut his hair and started going to church. Pretty much like anything you can think of in the 6 months or 6 years that you were with the narcissist that you begged them to do and they wouldn't do, all of a sudden they changed at the very end. That doesn't mean they had an epiphany and all of a sudden they're better. What that means is they realized that they didn't need to use that tool. Like if you said, I don't know, if you said, hey, I want you to get into therapy, and they're like, no, I'm not going to get into therapy. Like they're taking that tool back. And throughout the entire relationship, they're like, like this is cool. Like I don't have to do anything. Gina, awesome. 40 days, no contact. They pull back that tool and they're like, I don't need to do anything. Like I'm holding back, like not going to therapy, but they're not leaving. Like I don't have to worry about it. All of a sudden, oh, I'm thinking about leaving. I'm actually going to leave you now. Oh, I was actually thinking about doing therapy. They're going to pull that tool out at the very end because they realize all the other tools to be able to manipulate and abuse you are no longer working. So let's try something new. Why they give you the silent treatment when they are rejected with something you don't want to do? It's punishment. Like I'm going to give you the silent treatment so that I get what I want. What about when he's saying it's not abuse? I don't hit you, but he does everything else. That's him gaslighting, manipulating you so you don't think it's as bad as what it actually is. But if they're saying that, it's probably as bad as what it actually is. Like you need to understand they're going to try to justify their behavior. Do most narcs watch your social media the majority of the time? Do most narcs watch your social media the majority of the time? I'd say like 80 to 90%. Yeah. Serious question. LOL. What if my narc never hoovered me? Why? LOL. I know they don't all hoover, but why? So typically, I would say when a narcissist, so first off, just so for everybody out there, so hoover means they're going to try to drag you back in. They're trying to get back with you to control you. The second thing is hoover does not mean care. So if anybody ever wonders, like, wait a second, mine didn't hoover, now I feel bad. It's okay. They didn't care about you anyways. Okay. But with a hoover, a lot of times when they don't hoover back, and I think personally, I think you see a lot less of the covert narcissists that hoover back as much as like the overt. Not positive on that, so like don't come after me, but like I think a lot of times it's the image aspect of like you just left, so I'm gonna play the victim. I might like hoover by like everyone else. No, don't update. Sorry, it's on the computer. I want to make sure that my image looks best by everyone else. So if that means I have to go back and kind of like grovel, or I have to go back and actually like apologize to get with this person, or maybe this person like exposed me to some degree, like I'm not hoovering, or I'm going to go to the next person. I'm going to try to make sure. They could have tried to do a reverse hoover, where they're trying to put stuff on social media or show you like it was so great and you never reached out. They're just like, whatever. Doesn't make sense. Total covert, total victim. Yeah. I haven't done enough like research to like say that emphatically, but I have read some stuff on that. I need to dive into a little bit more. But like the covert is more the covert / vulnerable is more the idea of like image, and also it's the same thing as the overt, it's just hidden in different ways. Like they have the same characteristics, they're just hidden in different ways. So like instead of having like the big grandiosity, like they still have the giant ego, but they just hide it under being like, I'm actually humble. So they still want the praise. They just don't want to like look like a jerk getting it. How do I expect the people giving me, it keeps moving. How do I accept the people giving me a handout when I didn't help myself? Not sure what you're asking. Sorry. Mine is trying to come back. What are some things that narc do when they try to get you back? Anything. Like there's nothing that they won't do. Like literally, I was talking to someone today. The narcissist on the phone said to them, "What do I have to do to get you back?" Because they'll literally do anything. They mentioned, well, the only way it could ever happen, but it's not going to happen. The only way it could ever happen is if you got into therapy. They got off the phone. They booked therapy sessions for the next like 6 months. They will do anything to manipulate. But the thing is, this is why you don't give a narcissist a list. You don't give a narcissist a list because they'll go through and they'll check all the boxes. And then they'll come back to you, keep abusing him. And you'll be like, you're abusing me. And they'll be like, what? No, I checked the boxes. So what's your problem? Don't ever give a narcissist a list. Don't ever give a narcissist what they want. And what they want is to know how to control you. And you give them the keys to the kingdom by saying, hey, here's my list of what I want. Okay. Now he says he cares and he will do anything. Take the relationship off the table and see if he still will do anything for himself, not for you. Can they flip-flop between overt and covert? I would say yes. What have you exposed, then blocked? Will he still hoover? There's a possibility or less of a chance, but it's not a guarantee. Mine is 3 years cancer-free and know that he's going to use that card. He doesn't, or I may cave. Yeah. Pray he doesn't, or I may cave. So like you can't cave over that because it's just a manipulation. I think he's finally done with this. I don't understand. If you think he's done, but you don't know for sure, you need to make sure you block. And anytime anybody says, I think, you don't know for sure. Okay. How do my one-on-ones work? It's a good question. We had somebody actually ask that the other night when Lee and I were talking. So like mine a lot of times happen like a couple different ways. Like typically people will call in and they'll ask like questions. Like, I don't understand this. Sometimes people are like, I don't know if I'm the narcissist or they're the narcissist. So I'm like, tell me more. Like, let's actually walk through it. Sometimes we go through the DSM-5 to be able to see what's actually the difference, what's actually going on there. A lot of times people come and they talk to me with one-on-ones trying to break free of the trauma bond, and they don't know how to do that. They might know about narcissism, but they don't know how to put all the pieces together to rewire their mindset and change the story. So a lot of times when I'm working with people, coaching one-on-one for like multiple weeks or multiple months, what we're focusing on is learning how to change the story, learning how to teach that system, have them implement it, have them integrate it into their lives, and have them be able to come back to the table and be like, hey, this is what I thought, this is what happened, this is how I processed it, this is how I'm getting free. And we see people get free on a day-to-day basis when they start rewiring their mindset. It's like windy or rainy. That is so true about telling them to get therapy, and then all of a sudden last result was to get therapy. Yeah. The thing you have to understand, and I think a lot of people forget and don't realize this. It's like you have to think of it in like a logical progression, okay? If you tell the person that I want you to get therapy, and you've said this for years and years and they've never done it, and then at the very end of the relationship, they all of a sudden do it, you have to understand this logic, because it's very important for you to understand the truth of this. When you've said it for so long and they've never done it, and they do it at the very end, you know what that actually means. That means that they knew it, that they knew that's what you wanted the entire time, and they chose to not do that. That is manipulation at its core. That's manipulation at its finest, of the narcissist looking and saying, I know exactly what you want, and I'm going to hold it back until we get to the very end and you're getting ready to walk out the door. Then I'll be like, hey, look, I've got this. Remember this thing that you wanted? I've got this. So come on back. And then you step back in the door and they're like, what are you talking about? I didn't talk about therapy. Or I went to therapy and we're still back abusing. Okay. Am I teaching the program I used? Like the one I do for like one-on-ones, like that's what I was talking about earlier. We do have kids. We have a one daughter, 3 years old. Why do narcs say you won or I can't win when things don't go their way? Victimization, trying to make themselves feel like they can't do anything right. You're like, no, everything is okay. What's the main thing you yourself want to learn more about narcissism? I have no clue. There's like so much out there. It's crazy. Oh, awesome. Cool. Look forward to talking to you. Co-parenting with a narcissist, and he told me he was watching who I bring around our son closely. Yeah. No, I mean, they want to put that on you, but I mean, they're probably already bringing people around on their side. It's crazy. Your videos really helped me understand the last relationship. Awesome. Oh, the Warrior program. So the Warrior program, I kind of partner with some people with that. I've got a couple guys that are going through it right now that I'm like interacting with. But yeah, the Wake Up Warrior program, I've got it on my website. You can actually see a little bit. I have a discount code there as well. But like the Wake Up Warrior program is like really huge. I'd love to be able to walk like a bunch of survivors through, because I think it would be incredible for people to take back their power and understand, because the stuff that I teach and the stuff that I coach, some of it is based in like the Wake Up Warrior stuff, where you rewire your mindset, where you take back your power, where you do a process that in there is called stacking, which dives in deeper of like, what's the story that I'm believing? Is it actually true? Is it actually verified? If you guys are on Instagram, the Lindsay Goodman just joined here a second ago. If you see her down there, give her a follow. She's one of the Narc Avengers. If you block all platforms, do they still find a way to talk even if it's been 3 months? A lot of times, but I mean, you have to make sure you block like any random numbers that show up. Maybe change your phone number. Maybe go off social media for a period of time. He tells me to just leave all the time, but make it clear that I can't. Why? It's manipulation and control. So he wants to push you away so that you actually leave, but then he can play the victim. Why can't my ex-narc stand to see me happy? He's so controlling, but he can do whatever he wants to do. A lie, cheat, strip clubs, living double life. But I start today, he goes ballistic. Absolutely, because he still owns you. He still thinks he controls you. Did your parents see what you were doing and the woman you dated and your wife? No, they didn't at all. I know, like they were shocked whenever they found out about that I had an affair. And then they were shocked when I had 4 more. I know I need to let go and I'm having such a hard time, but my mind is so confused. He's dangerous. Be really careful. Like sometimes that going no contact can make them like flip out more. So be very careful. Set up a plan. Okay. It's important to block flying monkeys. Absolutely. Why do they try to catch strong people when they know they're hardest to manipulate? It was so difficult time with the narc had with me. I'm sure he must be now with some that can be manipulated easily. So a lot of times narcissist likes to catch strong people, successful people, anything like that. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to get this person because they're strong. Like, they really don't care when it comes down to it. But some are more attractive because this provides a particular challenge. So it'd be like climbing Pikes Peak versus climbing Everest. Of like, hey, I want to do this because it's a bigger challenge. At the end of the day, does it matter? No, they just want to do it. But a lot of times, the thing is, when they go after successful people or strong people, they get all the way up there, and then they realize, like, whoa, like nothing's actually changed. Like, I'm still the same awful person, and then they just abuse, devalue, and move on. Reactive abusers, they can play the victim 100%. Absolutely. Mine promised to never leave all the time, then ghosted me. Is this common? Yes, that's pretty common. It's like winning the lottery to them. I've heard that. Yeah, I can see the high, because it's an addiction. You know, that's where it gets like really close. It's like addiction of like holding up the mask of becoming that person. So a lot of times they'll continue running after it. And people have to understand, like, for all the fixers out there, which I know might be like half y'all, but like for all the fixers out there that want to fix the narcissist, what you need to understand is whenever you come into, especially covert narcissists, whenever you're in that relationship and you're coming in saying, hey, I'm going to fix them, I'm going to help them, I'm going to love them till get better. Did you know that you're actually enabling and worsening their addiction? Because you're giving them supply. Supply can be negative, can be positive, it doesn't matter. Supply is just your reaction to what they're doing. And when you keep coming back, when you keep saying, hey, I'm going to help them, I'm going to set up their therapy appointment, I'm going to get them honest, I'm going to schedule them this, I'm going to do all this. Stop. Set up boundaries, block, ghost, go no contact. Because if they're not willing to work on themselves, then you shouldn't be investing your time in someone who's not willing to invest time in themselves. Is it normal to believe that they aren't narcs even when they obviously are? Yes, it is, because you're believing a false fantasy that either they put in your mind or that you want to believe to make it easier to deal with. Why is it one day he cries about us, and the next day he acts like he doesn't care? Some of it's like wiping the slate clean every single night, and then all of a sudden it's being like next, and it just like kind of moves on. And typically, like if he's crying and the next day he doesn't care, it might be one day he's trying to manipulate in a different way. They'll be the gas to fill up their tank. Yeah. If they don't hoover, they're still watching. That's a good one. Maybe if they're reverse hoovering, I would say like 50%. Okay. Doing well with radical acceptance regarding my mom and stepfather being narcissistic. Now I'm questioning how much of what they claim about their lives are truth. I'm confused about what to believe. No, I mean, that's very true. It's hard. Sometimes you have to do your own research. You become your own sleuth trying to figure out like what was actually real. Like we're talking about people that have, like at times have fabricated parts of their reality, parts of their story. Like probably one of the craziest ones I heard like in the past little bit was like the idea of where the narcissist was with the narcissist was married to his wife and was constantly triangulating her about a previous person that he was engaged to. It wasn't until 5 years into the marriage that she found out that he was never even engaged to this person. But he fabricated the story and used that to be able to triangulate, use, and abuse. Okay. Currently going through unexpected health issues. He literally told me, I did this to myself and you want me to feel sorry. My husband, who constantly criticism, says you never hear what I say. Yeah, a lot of times, like when you get sick in a narcissistic relationship, you either have one or two things. There's really like kind of like polar opposites. Either have your narcissist do things for you so they can hold it against you later and be like, I did this for you. Or you have the narcissist that just gets pissed off because you're inconveniencing them with your sickness. Okay. I don't know how to stop the cognitive dissonance, to stop loving even when it gets so bad, I think is what it says. So like the cognitive dissonance is when you're looking at the situation, you're holding like opposing thoughts in your mind. And so the cognitive dissonance oftentimes is where the person's actions don't match up their words. And the problem with the cognitive dissonance is most people take a look at the cognitive dissonance and they're like, okay, it's okay. I'll just believe their words. I'll just believe their words. And it doesn't change the actions. And they don't focus on the actions. They focus on the words. And this is what gets them messed up so bad. Is you have to look at the truth of the situation. Is you have to look at the actions and not the words. Think of it this way. Cognitive dissonance at its core is the idea of the person looking you in the face, slapping in the face, and then saying, I love you. And then slapping in the face and then saying, hey, I love you. And then slapping in the face and then saying, I love you. And over a period of time, and then especially romantic relationships, when this goes on for a period of time, you get to the place where you say, this is what love is. This is all that I'm worth, or I need to go through this pain so I can get the love. And that's where you get stuck, because it screws up the whole idea of what love actually is. Okay? He keeps dropping in casual conversation and he's a narc. Example, I must be so much of a narcissist that how do we react to knowing that he is? How do we react to him knowing that he is? Like, block, go no contact, run. I mean, if he's actually acknowledging he's a narcissist and it's not changing his behaviors, then that shows you an even deeper level of insidiousness that he doesn't care. Okay? They got remarried, will it last? Not if they're not willing to change, grow, and heal. Why is there so poor knowledge among normal people about narcs, which I knew before? It's not taught. Like people don't really teach about it, you know? That's how it feels. I don't get the pain. I won't get the love. The thing is, you're worth the love without the pain. You need to understand that, because that goes back to your self-worth. I absolutely appreciate it. What's the difference between borderline personality and narcissism? Y'all keep bringing this stuff up. I don't like talking about borderline. Girl I was with had borderline and narcissistic traits. Super toxic. Like borderline engages a lot of times more with emotions. Borderline a lot of times has like self-harming habits and behaviors. Eating disorders, spending, sex, like different stuff that like is it damaging, like to the point where it's damaging. Also times you typically have like a borderline that will leverage like suicide or talk about like suicidal threats to try to be able to, you know, trigger you to get to do what they want. Sometimes you'll have like self-mutilating behavior, different things like that. Hopefully we don't lose power. It's like thundering pretty loud out there. That's what pulled me away from him, was actions not matching words. It pissed me off, and it was something I valued so much. Your word is your bond. Your actions have to match your words. Yeah, 100%. Have you ever heard an angry borderline is a secondary psychopath? No, but it would make sense, because borderlines, when they get angry, are very scary. At least the one that I dealt with. Very much so. I don't think it's accurate. I heard someone said earlier about like borderlines having empathy. I don't think that's 100% accurate. I think they engage with their emotions, and their emotions are higher a lot of times, but I know they don't always have empathy. Case in point, the girl that I was with, like I remember like transparent kind of crazy moment. I remember the girl that I cheated on my wife with that had borderline and narcissistic traits. I remember one time where she looked my wife straight in the face and said, I know what I did and I don't care. I have no regrets. Then that's how she lived her life, with no regrets. Like, I'm not going back. The past is in the past. I don't want to worry about it. I'm living in the moment. Would love to know more about the we talk. We have communication issues. So it's the same idea of like, hey, it's your problem. Like, you're the problem in the relationship. So with narcissists, a lot of times they'll look at you and they'll say, hey, you have the problem. It's your fault. It's your fault. They're projecting, right? Okay. So they say you have the problem. Then all of a sudden they'll change around and be like, actually, like, we have the problem. Like, it's not just your problem. It's actually our problem. The only thing that changed is they just dropped the Y off of it, and they're still giving you the same package of crap. Okay. There's no we for the narcissist. We is just a different package. Think of it this way. The narcissist is projecting that it's your fault. So they take the fault, they package it up all nice and neat and put a bow on top, and it says your fault. Okay. And they try to hand it to you and you're like, no, it's not my fault. And they're like, take it back. I'm like, okay, wipe off the Y, and it says it's our fault now. It's the same exact package. Okay, it's the same exact package, but they still hand it back to you. And half the time, people take it because they're like, okay, I'll take like 50%. We're all human. What you don't understand is what you're also taking is you're taking all the guilt and shame that they want to put on you because they groomed and manipulated you on purpose. Okay. Is it common for narc to be bisexual? Mine was kissing dudes on the end, and I was like, what the hell? Where did that come from? Not necessarily common. I think especially when you get into narcs that, are very like sexual driven or like have like sex addictions and stuff like that. I think there's a point where they use up everything and they try something new. Always pointing the finger, mom will never take accountability. Yeah, 100%. My narcissist husband believes his lies even when they know he's a drug user. Mm-hmm. 7 years and I've been to blame for every single argument. What if they went back to old supply? Do they change then? No, they don't. They just went back to the person who is easy to be manipulated. I press charges. Where'd it go? On my ex-narc for domestic abuse. What should I expect next? It's a loaded question. They might retaliate. They might disappear. My husband doesn't understand how changing your story can help. He's apprehensive. Okay. Trying to think of an example. So like think of it this way, your story is also like your perspective. It's just ingrained a lot more. It's like your subliminal like programming. It's the operating system that's running in the background that's keeping everything else running. And if it's programmed a certain way, if it's geared a certain way, then it's always going to take you down the same aspect. So it's like simple concept would be that you're walking around town with rose-colored glasses. You're not going to see the red flags. You're just going to see flags. You'll be like, oh, like this is cool. So when people start thinking in their mindset about what the story actually is. So let's say from the narcissist perspective, hey, every time my wife criticizes me, like she hates me, she's shaming me, she's telling me I'm an awful person and that I'm the worst father and the husband ever. Okay. But like when they actually understand, like, hey, that's not actually the story that's happening because it's not actually true. What's actually happening is your wife is, trying to get you to change and get better. And so you need to change that thought process. Like I'm kind of giving that one because it's like close to home. So like the story is really important because a lot of times what people believe is what they want to believe, but it's not actually based in truth. And it's a lot harder to tell people like, hey, what lies do you believe today? Because it's that like that's so hard. Like I don't know the lies that I believe, but I do know the story that goes through my mind every time I feel X, Y, and Z. Hopefully that makes sense a little bit. Could my daughter be narcissistic as well as having BPD? She's diagnosed with BPD. If she's under like 18 or 21, she shouldn't be diagnosed with it because it's not supposed to be diagnosed till after. And oftentimes if it's BPD or NPD, it's based on the familial system that they've been brought up in. Why is their perception warped? Their perception is shaped to be supportive of the mass they're creating. What's your opinion on the narc being in law enforcement? Mine is, and he uses that badge for his own benefit and thinks he's invincible. There's narcissists everywhere in every aspect. So narcs groom you. What I don't understand is, do they do this with deliberation and celebrate each step, like a checklist and checking off each time he or she makes progress, or do they just do it? A little bit of both. When it's deliberate, you see more sociopath and psychopathic tendencies. Anytime we went on a road trip or vacation, there was always a mood. Is that common? Yes. A lot of times they want to ruin it because it's not all about them. They'll avoid shame and guilt at all costs. Yeah, I think someone put earlier of like their shame avoidant. My wife and I were doing a lot better. So I've been in therapy now for going on 18 months. And 6 months before that, I was also doing EMDR therapy. My wife's been in therapy kind of like double as long. And we do couples therapy now. We did some in the past and got rid of that counselor, but we do couples therapy now. Again, couples therapy is not for you and the narcissist. Like if you're thinking about going to couples therapy, don't do it. Okay? Like couples therapy for us was an addition after our own individual therapy for a long period of time. Okay? Couples therapy for the narcissist is just meant as to give them more ammo to use and abuse you. Been watching Brene Brown and hearing her take on changing the story. I don't actually know her take on changing the story. A lot of my changing the story comes from Wake Up Warrior stuff. Can you all actually hear the thunder? It was loud a second ago. Was your wife the main reason you started therapy? Nope, not at all. Or did you want to change for her? Nope, not at all. The thing is, you can't have someone change for another person. And if you do, it will be short term. So stop thinking that all of y'all can change your narcissist. I'm not on this platform to provide hope. I'm on this platform to provide awareness, growth, healing, change. You see it in every video. You hear it in every YouTube that I go through. Awareness, growth, healing, and change. Doesn't say hope anywhere, because you cannot force another person. You cannot take, I see the lightning flashing. Yeah, you cannot take the horse to water and force them to drink. If anything, you'll just drown them. Like, you have to make sure you understand, if you think you can change your narcissist, then do the best thing you can to change your narcissist. Set a boundary, walk out the door, block them. And if they decide to get healing and work on themselves, they need to do it without your relationship being on the table. Yes, it's loud. Sorry. Stop thundering. My husband lied to me, saying I will always chase you, and then left. Haven't seen or heard from him in almost 2 weeks. Yeah. Couples therapy is re-traumatizing. Bad stuff. Yeah. Many therapists don't recognize these things that are common in other countries. 100%. So my therapy is still ongoing. It's going to be going like for the rest of my life. But like, therapy for me is every single week. So every Wednesday I go to therapy. How to heal a trauma bond. First, acknowledge the truth of the situation. Stop looking at the peaks and start looking at the pits. Start understanding what's actually true in the relationship. Get to the place where you're not living off of a fantasy. You're not thinking, hey, this is what the fantasy actually is, but you're acknowledging this is the truth and this is the story that I need to believe. Because otherwise you get to the place where you're looking, and that trauma bond is based on hope, potential, cognitive dissonance. And it's based on you not acknowledging the truth and not living in a state of truth. You living in the fog, the fear, the obligation, the guilt. Like, the trauma bond is all meant to control you and to keep you in a bed of lies. So you have to understand the truth, and then you have to understand the things that you're thinking might not be based in truth. And so you have to look at those and be like, hey, this is the story I'm telling myself. What are the facts about this? Seriously, I think we're gonna lose power here. I'm currently in a silent treatment. We will likely drink tonight. May Hoover. I'm dying for contact. Should I ignore him or enjoy the conversation? If you're no contact with them, then you need to be no contact. Currently on silent treatment. Would you likely drink tonight? I mean, you need to ignore him and you need to get out of the relationship. Which book? Why can't I just leave? Is that a Romney or who is that? I forget. I think I have it on my shelf. The Office. You're ignoring my questions about your wife and her experience. I've got 5 platforms that are going here. None of it is on purpose. How do you get the narc to accept you're leaving them when you break up? You walk out the door, you block them, you ghost, you make sure that there's no way that they can come back into your life. Talking to them and telling them isn't going to change anything. It's only going to give them more hope. How is no contact possible when a kid's involved? I have a video of this, I think, on YouTube. Third-party communication, third-party drop-offs. It is possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. So talk about it. You just read my question about your wife. Okay, I have a wife. We go to therapy together. We work on stuff. It's a lot different than what it used to be. I'm not sure what you're asking. Be nice in here and ask your question. I'm answering a lot of different questions. Why do they say that when a narcissist goes to prison, he no longer is a narcissist? Never heard anybody say that. I would say that's a bunch of BS. Is life after therapy all you thought it would be from feeling fulfilled finally? That's a question. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I thought like in the past of like, oh, I'll be fulfilled finally. Did he ever really love me and care? I need to accept that won't change, and that's on him and understand that. Let me ask you this. How did he demonstrate love? How did he demonstrate care? How did he demonstrate faithfulness? How did he demonstrate honesty? That's what you really put it up to. But a lot of times, no. It's the easiest way to put it. After the narc left, I never tried to get him back and I didn't fall for his test, Hoover. So why do you think he keeps saying that he's done with me when I'm not trying to be with him? He's still actively like contacting you, so he's not done with you. He's still putting it out there. And anytime you engage, you're still like giving him supply. He sent me 4 emails today and a couple yesterday. If I did respond, what would be the best way? The best way would be not responding. Like, you don't understand. When you respond, you feed it. You're literally feeding the monster when you respond. You're feeding into the addiction. Does therapy just keep you from doing what's not acceptable, or do you truly feel like you're bettering yourself and having a better life? Therapy just keep me. So therapy doesn't keep me from doing anything. Therapy gives me the tools and the reps to start working on it so that I can identify it and so I can work on changing it. Like, that's the whole thing, is like with a narcissist, you want to be able to identify what's going on. And the majority of narcissists won't actually identify where they are. Like, that's the difference between you and a narcissist. Is a narcissist won't tell where they are on a map. Think if you have to go from A to B, and like here's B, a narcissist won't identify where A actually is. They don't want to actually like say like what's going on. Light Feather, you're not blocked. I see you. And so like that's the difference, is you can actually acknowledge like, hey, this is here. Now I can work on healing, growing, and changing. It's hard not to run back them because they've made an addiction. And you don't want to run back to them, but it is hard because there is an addiction. Will medication help NPD? There's no medication out there to help NPD. We got some feisty people in the chats today. Y'all need to take it down a notch. I don't know what's going on today. How do you break the trauma bond? Would love to talk to you. Wait, no, you already said you booked the one-on-one. So yeah, we'll talk. But yeah, like breaking the trauma bond is from acknowledging truth to rewriting the story of what activates when you think about that person, when it triggers you and it runs you back down to the same thing that you start believing that's actually not true. There's a lot of comments going on. Okay. When do we have a one-on-one? When did you schedule one? Because I can't really see because I'm alive. There is a lot of hurt people, but we also need to be careful how we're communicating to people. Yeah, I'm not blocked. Just sitting. Yeah, I didn't block you. Didn't say anything bad. You're good. What if you have no family or support system to do a third-party co-parenting? I know people that have done it through even like a nanny, through like a babysitter. Saturday, awesome. Okay. Do you know when you meet other narcs? I wouldn't be prideful saying like yes all the time, but a lot of times it's easy to see. My person was diagnosed bipolar, but he is almost a textbook narc. How does that work? I don't know for sure because I'm not a therapist and I didn't do the diagnosis, and that's not my job. But I do know there's a lot of people that are misdiagnosed too. I don't know how to leave. How do I do it? Do I just stop talking to them? Yeah. Like Unfortunately, it's that hard and it's that easy at the same time. It's typically that hard at the same time because, like, you don't want to give up on this person. You don't want to leave. Sometimes it's trying to prove something to yourself. Sometimes it's afraid. Is it true that the narcissistic person has a snapshot of you in their head and they're in the relationship with the snapshot? I could see that. I'm not sure I could like stand on that soapbox though. Interesting. Absolutely appreciate it. Can you mention some of the red flags when dating? I feel like I think I have a video on this on YouTube as well. Like red flags in dating, like I think one of the popular ones that people don't really like use that much is like telling the person no. Setting a boundary and having a way to be able to see how they actually respond or react to it. Because a narcissist, like when they actually come up against a boundary, like they'll either blow through it right away, they'll either come up and kind of like dip their toe in the water, kind of like step over a little bit to see how you react, or they'll kind of like come up to it almost really close and then kind of like blow it off of like, oh, you're overreacting, or oh, like this is happening. Like find, like when you think of like boundaries, find someone who's going to come alongside you and is going to help you continue to grow, heal, and change. If you find someone that's not going to do that, that's a boundary right there. A lot of times people think of boundaries as being very reactionary, of like, don't yell at me, don't cuss at me, don't do this, don't cheat. Like those are all like reactionary. A lot of times come out of those relationships, but instead a boundary can simply be, this is the direction I'm going and you're not going in the same direction, so you're not in my life. One-on-ones a lot of times are answering people's questions. They're working with people to get out of the trauma bond, help get through the rumination phase, to help work on figuring out like who you are and how to set those boundaries to not go back and to not go forward. Any BPD resources on the app? No, there is not. I'm sorry. We're not even like touching the surface like deep enough for even like NPD, and we're still working on developing more and more stuff. Do you think they can develop a trauma bond with themselves? My ex lied so much and believed them. No, that's not a trauma bond. It's like gaslighting themselves, and they will believe their own lies. Wow, you won't speak about the snapshot. My narcissist has mental illness. Do you agree? I don't know enough about the snapshot to be able to say stuff. Narcissist has a mental illness. Do you agree? It's a personality disorder. Should I meet my narc who I've known for decades but never met? Will it help me leave him? No, it won't. It'll probably make it easier for him to manipulate. I haven't done research or reading about snapshots, so I don't really know about that. I think one of the aspects of like finding joy now is taking a moment to look at gratitude of like, how am I actually thankful for stuff now? How am I present in the moment? Because that was never there before. So yeah, I think I tap into joy now, not as much as what I could for sure, because it's a new concept. Does the narc have a trauma bond with us too? Good question. No, they don't. Okay. The only time I think a narcissist could possibly have part of a trauma bond would be either with another narc or BPD or cluster B category, but a narc does not have a trauma bond with you. Okay. Yeah, that's a really good question. How's the venue search for Austin going? I sent you that one. That's the one I really want. I'm just not sure how we can afford it, but that's the one that I really want. But how am I going to get closure if we don't meet? I feel like I get rejected after we meet and be able to fully close the door. Hey, if that's what you want, then go for it, but just know what you're walking into. The thing is, closure doesn't come from the narcissist. Closure comes from you acknowledging what actually happened, not what they're saying actually happened. Is it common to question yourself when you're finally leaving and wonder if you're the narc? 100%. Think about how you acted in the relationship and then think about how you acted in previous relationships. Is it all the same? Is it a pattern? Or is it like, wait a second, like they call me bipolar and crazy. Like that never happened in all my other relationships. Something might be up here. You'll never get closure from a narcissist, but you can get closure because that comes from you. Makes me sad feeling that they have no regard for our feelings. They're counting on that. They're counting on you to feel sad so they can get you back. I was actually wondering if I was the bad person. Yeah, a lot of times you do. A lot of times you question, like, wait a second, like, am I the bad person because I reacted this way or because I did this? Think of it this way. A lot of times people talk about reactive abuse. And when it comes to it, the first word is reactive, right? Which is the idea of a reaction. A lot of times what people don't focus on is reaction means there was an action to start the reacting. So it's not the reaction that's the problem. It's also the action that starts it off. Never did that with any other relationship. Yeah. So that's why it's good to like think through that. I feel like if the narc rejects me hard enough, I'll gather the courage to leave. The question is, what if they don't reject you hard enough because they're just stringing you along? Like you're walking into a toxic relationship to talk to a person to try to get closure. If a okay, think of it this way. If a narcissist is telling you that they want closure or they want to like, tie up loose ends, it's a lie. And all they want is another chance to be able to extend their stay in your life. Can narcissists suffer from sex addiction? Yes. Like anybody can suffer from sex addiction. Like narcissists aren't exempt. I think that there's less narcissists out there that suffer from sex addiction and they're just trying to fulfill their own desires, but they would rather say they're a sex addict than they would say they're a narcissist. Is it true usually that he accuses you that he's doing it? A lot of times, yes. Is that projection piece. Thoughts on moments that feel real? Are they faking connection? A lot of times you're inferring connection, or the connection that they're putting out there is mimicked. They will gaslight you and twist your words. No words is best. 100%. Zero engagement, zero reactions to them. And they constantly deny your reality. Yeah. Think at the end, he enjoyed pleasing himself instead of us together. Any advice about the female narcissist? Dude, they're even scarier. Female narcissists? Oh my gosh, I really need to talk one-on-one because I'm so confused with this guy. Would love for you to reach out. Either rawmotivations.com, click the link on any of the bio. If you have the NARC app, you can schedule there. I've caught him cheating and denies it and says I've destroyed us by not trusting him. He somehow turned it on me. Yeah, no, isn't that crazy? Like what you have to realize is like, wait a second, because you didn't trust him, he cheated on you. How does that even make sense? It doesn't, but the narcissist will flip it around to try to use and abuse you. Well, if you trusted me more, if you spent more time with me, if you engaged more, then I wouldn't have done my own actions that were my own choices. Like, no, like that's just a little kid that's being frustrated and they pick up their toys and they go play by themselves in the corner. Like they're just like, I'm gonna take my toys and go home. Like you're not making me happy. And so instead of them actually like working on it, they just run away with the next person. How to co-parent with ex-Disney dad. It's a tough one. Because the kids are going to a lot of times be wowed by a lot of the things that they do, but they have to understand there's not going to be an emotional safe place for there. So how are you creating that safe place for them? Whoa, it's almost 11. Did not realize. Their thinking in words will never make sense. Why are female narcs scarier? Because you don't see them as much. I think they're harder to be able to find. Like, I think they're harder to be able to identify. Can only pinpoint one value he's stuck to. He always works. He has to work. Work is probably his supply, his distraction. When I wasn't home with him, he'd create arguments while I was working. If they get validation from anyone, do they ever miss specific validation from me? They've missed specific control of you. Why tell you about their sex life with their new supply? I left them. You didn't really leave them if they're still communicating with you. You're still engaged. You're still getting triangulated. They'll lie about everything and they'll still go out and cheat. 100%. They're backhand and feel vindictive from what I've seen. Go stonewall, no communication, do nothing. Yeah, like that's one of the best ways to be able to get away from narcissists and make sure that you don't continue that cycle of being in them. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, download the NARC app for me. NARC stands for Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community. There's a lot of people on there that are helping engage in growing, healing, and changing. I've got weekly lives that are secured only inside there, so you can come on screen. You can talk through some of the issues that are going on actively. It's not broadcasted to the rest of the media out there. We've got monthly coaching where we're focusing on not just narcissism, but we're focusing on where are you going from here? What's the good habits, the good triggers that you're putting in your life? Who are you? It's on Google Play. It's on Apple. You can go in there every single day as a form of accountability, be able to track your no contact, to be able to record your truth, to be able to ask advice from other people, to be able to go through courses, to be able to help understand about it. We've got more courses coming. We've got a lot more things coming to the table that we want to be able to help out with, but check that out. Just the monthly coaching is like an awesome experience. We've had a lot of cool people that have already come on. We've got a lot more coming. If you guys are going to be in Texas, or if you want to travel to Texas in October 15th, it's going to be the next meet and greet. And it's actually, meet and greet doesn't serve it justice because it's not going to be a meet and greet 100%. Okay. There's also going to be an opportunity, I believe, to do in-person one-on-ones with some of the Narc Avengers. So like myself, Mental Healness, Lisa, Stronger Than Before, like Carrie, like there's going to be a lot of different people. There's an opportunity to be able to do that. There's also going to be an opportunity for, I believe, an exclusive like question and answer time. I don't know how many people are going to be there or we're going to be doing. We're trying to also figure out, because there's so many of us that are going there, we're also trying to figure out just how to like pay for the venue. Because we had in North Carolina, we had about like 75 people show up. So we're trying to think through, okay, as it continues to grow, like how are we going to have enough space? Austin's like pretty crazy. Dr. Romani said 50% of the population now narcs. She said she's scared for humanity. Yeah. Austin, Texas. Trying to lock down location. Right now I'm in the process of narrowing down location. The biggest thing is I just have to figure out like how we want to like pay for it. That's the biggest thing we're trying to figure out right now. Because we've got people flying in from all the countries. So like we all have to stay somewhere, and we also have to figure out a venue to try to meet everybody too. Will me keeping our kids away from sometime make me a bad mom? No. An absent parent is better than a toxic one. Okay. Yeah, Austin, Texas, October 15th. Mark it down in your calendar. Right now, I don't know the whole agenda. Like we're trying to get a venue from like 9 to 5. With one-on-ones, with question and answer time, with meet and greet, with like speaking, telling our stories, different things like that. So like we're super excited. Awesome. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to talk sometime, you can do a one-on-one with me. Would love to be able to help you walk through either the trauma bond, the ruminating phase, the setting up the boundaries, knowing who you are. Like I coach people every single day. This week's been busiest it's been in a little while, actually. I was kind of surprised because July got really slow. This week, I think I've met with like 30. By the end of the week, it'll be like 36 people. I'm trying to help people grow, heal, and change. You might be in denial. Yeah. You have to look at their actions. You have to look at what they've demonstrated. I'd love to go to the Louisville area. It's been a while since I've been there. We'll get there sometime. So yeah, you can look at different availabilities on rawmotivation.com. I've got different packages, also different like one-on-ones. Even they've really helped me understand the deal with the narcissist. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. We're just trying to provide the information, try to provide the stuff for the people to be able to be empowered to make the decisions that are based on truth, not based on the fantasy or the fog that you get put in with the narcissist. But we're wrapping up here. Thank you all so much for being on here. Appreciate it. We'll be back next Thursday, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern time. Be back Monday inside the NARC app. If you're a premium supporter on the NARC app, make sure you log in through the premium supporter tab. It'll bring you in. You can go live on screen. You can ask questions live time. Otherwise, you have to submit them through the form inside the app. Would love to interact with you guys there, be able to talk to you. That's Monday night. Wednesday night, we'll be back on YouTube and Facebook under Mental Healness channel on YouTube. So check that out. How's my relationship with my baby mama? I don't have a baby mama. I have a wife. The relationship's a lot better. Thank you all so much. Yeah, we'll get around. We'll get there. So Texas is going to be the last venue for this year, for 2022. 2023, Monday on the app. Yes, 9:30 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern time is inside the app. We're live every Monday. So Texas, Austin, Texas is the last one for this year. 2023, I don't know exactly yet because we have a lot of planning to do. My personal goal would be to do 6. But I don't know if all 6 of those are going to look exactly like a meet and greet or if they're going to turn more into like, what's the right word? Workshop. Okay. But yeah. So UK, that would be cool. We'll get there some year. We got to figure out how to make the meet and greets like work, but also like help like right now, the biggest thing in Austin is like looking for like the right venue. Like I'm looking for a venue from like 9 to 5. I found one that I like. I'm just trying to make sure like if we get it, like I can't foot the whole bill for it. So I'm trying to figure out like if we want to like charge or like if we want to have like a donation box or like something to try to be able to help figure out like how we're going to put all this together. So we got people flying in from like all over the country. There's like 8 or 9 narc Avengers that'll be there. And then some of them are bringing different people in too. So like we're super excited to be there in Austin. We're just trying to figure out how to just finagle figuring out where everybody's staying, the venue. Like, do we charge? Do we have like a GoFundMe for the venue? Like, I don't know. Like we're trying to figure out how best to be able to impact a lot of people and be able to help people as best we can too. So anyways, if y'all are just logging in or didn't get a chance to be able to see some of the live, feel free to look on YouTube under Raw Motivations. If you're on any other platforms, please follow me over there. Okay, please follow me over on YouTube under Raw Motivations. So this whole live will be over there, so you can go back and you can watch it. You can kind of go through any of that. Also, if you don't follow over there, just follow over there anyways, because we're trying to build up that platform. It's the smallest platform out of all of my platforms currently. But on YouTube, we've got longer videos that we're dropping every single day. So we typically have 2 videos dropping every day that are 10 to 12 minutes long, like diving in more in depth about narcissism, how it affects that awareness, growth, healing, and change. Okay. Anyways. Awesome. Y'all have a great night. Thank you guys so much. Thank y'all for keeping it real and keeping it nice. Everybody's a little feisty today on some of the platforms. I don't know what's going on. Chris and Brittany, I think you guys are the main moderators on TikTok. Thanks so much for helping out. Some people got spicy. Anyways. And y'all have a great evening. We'll start signing off here. Let's see. All right, there we go. Instagram, you guys are going bye-bye. Have a good night. See y'all next time. All right, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. I don't think anybody was on Twitter. Thanks so much, y'all.